So you're using the same camera, you've got enough memory for it, they should just run the whole thing then, right?
Well, like we were saying, it might be hard to upload something that big.
Oh, and you don't have an editor you can splice it and cut it in half.
Yeah,
Got it.
it might just be easier to upload it that
Okay,
way.
so you tell me when you want to stop and start?
Sure, yeah, I'll do that. Thanks. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, let's see on everybody's hands how they felt their reading break went. Out of 10, please. Anybody had a 10 reading break?
I see a 6, I see a 3. I see a
That's a
few
lot of
6s.
math,
I see a few 6s, some 8s.
That's not bad. Anybody have any interesting things they did during reading break? I spent all my reading break at Rhys's house. Yeah, we had a great time.
I have pictures of my dog on his lap.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Let's pick a couple people. Mark, how was your reading break? What did you do?
I ripped the fattest melodica solo with some local pros.
So same as every day, eh? Emerson, how was yours?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Slept a lot this year.
Oh, so jealous. Who else? One more person. You got a haircut. What else did
I
you
got a
do?
haircut. I got to hang out with my grandparents.
That's nice.
And did speech with my grandpa. So
Oh, nice. They live in town here?
they live in Vancouver.
Okay. Awesome.
Lovely.
Well, before we jump in further into our topic, we'd like to start with acknowledging the territories.
Yeah, so we acknowledge with respect the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich peoples of the Lacomian language group on whose traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory the university stands. These communities and individuals have stewarded the land for thousands of years, and their historical relationships with the land continue to this day.
So as music educators, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're committing to decolonization and indigeneity by actively seeking out experience with indigenous music and indigenous musicians. And a really incredibly easy and fun way we can do that is by listening to a radio show called Reclaimed. And the host is Jared Martineau, there it is. And it's on CBC, 92.1, 6 to 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, every Wednesday. There's also a CBC Listen app that allows you to listen to anything on CBC for free at any time, if that's not a good time for you. And so Reclaimed is a weekly series on CBC Radio that explores the many worlds of contemporary indigenous music, from traditional songs and acoustic sounds, folk music, rock, country, to native hip hop, R&B, and dance floor filling beats of electric powwow. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention, that it's a really great way to get familiar with indigenous artists.
And there's a CBC app as well that you can listen to it for free.
CBC Listen is what it's called.
Hi,
I'm
Tyler.
and
I'm
Rhys
welcome
to
our
our presentation on
on
musical.
hiccuping.
So
What
is
musical?
hiccuping?
Well, musical hiccuping is a term that we're using to describe a musical practice that has roots in many different cultures around the world.
From the Inuit to many African cultures, to Indonesia, to French liturgical music, to contemporary music like electronica and hip hop, to many other examples from other cultures, this technique appears again and again as a way of sharing and performing music together.
So essentially, this technique involves the sharing of a melody and or rhythm between two or more voices or instruments. The melody is broken into short segments, often 1 or 2 notes each, and the segments have been assigned to individuals to play or sing.
The melody is put back together when individuals combine their parts and the whole melody is heard again. So to help us to get familiar with this concept, we're going to try a fun activity right away. So we'll need everyone to please quickly stand up and arrange themselves in a circle around the room. So if you can push chairs as far back as possible, we're going to get into our oh so familiar standing circle. And some of you can come right up to the front where we are. Circle up.
Yeah, okay.
So, Tyler?
Why don't you start? Do you want to go clockwise or counterclockwise?
Well, let's talk about the activity.
Oh yeah, that's good.
The activity is called One Word Story. And what happens is we're going to go around the circle and make up a story together. Each person is going to say one and only one word. to add to the story. So there's a bit of improvisation that's going on here. We're going to go 3 times around, and that's going to be the end of our story. And try not to be too clever with your word choice. Don't try and take too long. The idea is for this to flow smoothly, like it's just one narrator the entire time around. Okay, so we're going to try this. And the sort of tempo that we're going to be saying words, each one of us is kind of at this tempo. So kind of moderato, you might call it. Ready? So Tyler and I will start. Once
Upon.
A
Time.
there was
Student.
called
Alex. And she went
Two.
the
Music.
store. And one day.
she decided
To.
murder
No one
because
she
is a
very
good person. And she
Needed.
to
Go.
home. And at her
home. She,
Eight.
we're slowing down.
burger
and
Eight plus.
very delicious.
And
She decided to make
Vegan.
mayo.
With.
Sriracha. And potatoes. Yum.
And Barbie, you've done this activity before. Has anyone else done this? Eva has. A few of you have. Did you notice that we started to slow down? And another thing I noticed is that it's really hard to know when to stop a sentence and to start a new one. A lot of times we go and, but, etc. Right? Article of your choice there. And so that's something that's tricky to do with this activity. We really need to listen to each other as we go around and anticipate, okay, it's coming to me and I'm ready. So try and think ahead of when your turn is actually going to happen. We're going to try this one more time and make it slightly more musical. There's still going to be the element of improvisation. But this time, we're also going to do this pitched. So we're going to sing our word. Any pitch you want. We're going to make up a little song here when we sing this, okay? This time, what do you think? Voice around?
Yeah.
I think so. Once
Upon.
there
Was.
Cat.
called
Susan. And she liked
Two.
sleep
On.
the couch one day.
nice.
she
Fell. Into.
Deep.
sink
And.
Sing, sing.
Her.
I love it
So she decided to
Take.
take
Bath.
and it was fun.
meow
And so this is, that was awesome. So this is musical hiccuping. We all share in making the melody together, one little parcel at a time. Of course, most hiccuping works a lot faster and it's a lot more coordinated. But now we're sort of getting an idea by trying it together what hiccuping is all about. So now we're going to continue with some more information for you. So quickly back into your chairs. Let's see if we can arrange it the same way we were before. Thank you very much.
So as we just heard, in many cultures, musical hiccuping is often treated as a kind of game. The technique is highly conversational and interactive by nature. And by breaking up and sharing melodic components with others, others, we practice cooperation, the sharing and coordination of roles and responsibilities, and intensive focusing and listening to one another. Musical hiccuping can dramatically reshape the way music sounds by playing with different timbres and octave ranges. These sonic effects can be used to provide a sense of abstraction or illusion to the music. Here is an example.
So guys, can you, when I play this, I want you guys to listen and see if you can figure out what popular song this is. Does anybody know what song that is? What about when the notes are all arranged back in their proper octave range? Hands up if you know what song that is. Nishan, what song is that?
Wouldn't it be nice?
By?
I don't know who it's
Extra
by.
credit by? Anybody?
The Beach Boys?
The Beach Boys, that's right. So let's listen to the first example again when the notes are spread out across different octave ranges. See if you can still hear the song this time. Did anybody hear it that time? Sort of? So
More
this,
obvious now though, right?
it's a little
You
bit
hear
more
it.
obvious, a little bit more clear. So this is an example of a musical illusion, and specifically it's Diana Deutsch's mysterious melody illusion. So this illusion shows that pitch range is an essential part of how we perceive melodies. And so in this, every note stays in the exact same pitch class. A C is still going to be a C, but they're spread out in a semi-random way between high octaves, low octaves. And this really scrambles our brain when we're trying to perceive a melody. And this is something that's happening in musical hiccuping a lot. Can anybody think of an art movement in visual art that might be related to musical hiccuping? Eva?
Whoever was it?
You first?
I was gonna say like collage or something where different pieces form a single image.
Ooh, that is.
That might be a form of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
didn't
good.
think about that
That's
one.
really
See,
good.
this is good because we thought that there probably would be other answers that we didn't think of. That's a good one. Does anybody else
Kat?
have an idea?
I can't remember what the style of painting is, but it's like point pulling or something. like
Yeah,
that.
That's exactly
that's
right.
right, you got it.
Yeah, pointillism. Vicky?
12 music?
12-tone music?
Yes.
It is similar, and serial music, but we're talking about like visual art, like paintings and stuff. And different styles of that's related to musical hiccuping. So yeah, absolutely, pointillism is one we thought of. For those who may not be familiar, pointillism is small little dots of color, and when they're arranged properly, they make larger images. This is an example of pointillism painting by Seurat. And the other style that we thought was really relative to musical hiccuping is cubism. And so cubism, objects are analyzed, they're broken up, and they're reassembled to show different angles, different perspectives of the same thing. So instead of seeing a person from just one angle in the front, now you're seeing them from all these different angles. And that's sort of related to the musical illusions that we discussed as well.
Right. So there are many different words to describe this concept, depending on which culture it comes from. For the Inuit, the word is kataja. In the Busoga Kingdom in Uganda, it is bigwala. Depending on where you are in Indonesia, it can be called imbal or kotakan, and Arnold Schoenberg described it as klangfarben melody. In medieval France, this term was hocketing.
So formal transcriptions of hocketing first appeared in compositions from the Ars Antiqua movement in 13th century France. Does anybody remember learning about the Ars Antiqua in music history? Maybe not. Guillaume de
come
Machaut,
on.
Keratin. Teachers like Guillaume de Michaud and Periton used the technique extensively. For many monks who sang this music, hocketing was considered a game. Medieval clerics from the era wrote about how much fun hocketing was. It was so much fun, apparently, that in 1325, Pope John XXII banned its use in church. So this is an example of what medieval hocketing sounds like. Pretty fun.
Yeah, so the term hocketing originates from medieval France, and the English translation of the word is hiccuping. And that's why we've called our lesson musical hiccuping in an attempt to get away from the term hocketing. So although the French were the first to coin the term, examples of this practice date much further back in various cultures as a musical tradition.
Hocketing is often used as a catch-all term to describe a musical practice that has developed independently across many different cultures throughout history. It didn't start in medieval France. And these hocketing traditions or hiccuping traditions developed independently from one another. They weren't influenced by each other's practice. To use this term in this way, hocketing, promotes the worldview that music practices need to be legitimized through a Eurocentric lens. So to try and get away from that, we're using the term hiccuping, musical hiccuping instead. As we progress through our lesson, try to think of what word you might use to describe this practice.
Okay, we're going to dive into hiccuping some more, and we're going to do another activity. Can I please have everybody stand up one more time? We're going to push chairs back and organize into a circle. I need everybody to be evenly spaced on the floor.